Every day, millions fall prey to the siren song of consumerism, an unrelenting chorus of flashing ads, perfectly curated social media feeds, and the devilishly simple buy now button that turns a fleeting craving into a costly purchase. Impulse buys have become the stealthy enemy lurking in our digital lives, draining our wallets and fueling a cycle of debt, stress, and regret. But what if you could build an unbreakable shield against these urges? One forged not by willpower alone, but by ancient wisdom that teaches mastery over desire itself. Stoicism isn't about deprivation or cold austerity. It's about reclaiming your freedom, the freedom to choose wisely, to align spending with your deepest values, and to find contentment beyond the fleeting thrill of the checkout counter. In this guide, you'll discover 6 powerful Stoic steps that empower you to curb impulse spending, protect your financial peace, and rebuild your willpower, one deliberate choice at a time. Number 1. Fortify your citadel. Cultivate self-control as a core virtue. At the foundation of Stoic ethics lies a virtue that stands as a bulwark against all forms of external chaos and internal turmoil: Enkrateia, or self-control. This is more than mere willpower. It is a reasoned mastery over one's desires, impulses, and emotions. The Stoics held this virtue in the highest regard because it is the gateway to freedom. Without it, we become slaves to fleeting passions, habitually reacting to every whim and craving that assails us. Seneca famously said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Consider the modern impulse buyer. Each time they surrender to an urge triggered by a flashing ad or a trendy post, they lose a fragment of that freedom. Their choices no longer emerge from rational judgment, but from momentary cravings. Their wallets thin, their stress grows, and their true values fade beneath layers of meaningless possessions. To reclaim control, we must fortify the inner fortress of self-control, our personal citadel. But Enkrateia is not about harsh denial or Stoic asceticism. It is not self-flagellation or punishing deprivation. Instead, it is a deliberate, thoughtful pause, a sacred space between impulse and action where reason asserts its rightful authority. It is the ability to feel the pull of desire without being dragged along by it. This capacity is what distinguishes the wise person from the overwhelmed consumer. Epictetus, a former slave-turned-Stoic teacher, placed this power of choice at the very center of his philosophy. He taught that while we cannot always control external events or even our initial feelings, we can always control our responses. Our impulses belong to this domain of control. The Stoics' task is to develop a vigilant awareness that recognizes these urges as impressions, mental images and feelings that arise but need not command action. How can we build such vigilance and self-control in practical terms? The answer lies in daily ascesis, a disciplined training of the mind and will. Just as an athlete conditions their body by repeated effort, so too must we condition our minds to resist impulsive urges. Begin with small acts of restraint that go beyond spending. For example, when the craving for a sweet treat strikes, pause and ask, "Do I truly need this now?" Before checking your phone in moments of boredom, delay the action by 5 minutes. Choose to complete a focused task before indulging in distraction. Each small victory acts like a gym session for your self-control muscle. These moments accumulate, and over time become an effortless habit. Seneca advised, "We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality." In the same way, the imagined satisfaction of an impulse purchase is often stronger than the actual benefit it delivers. Cultivating Enkrateia allows us to see through these illusions and resist the pull. Furthermore, the Stoics taught the value of mindful reflection, not in a judgmental way but as a clear-eyed observer of your own behavior. When you resist an impulse, take a moment to mentally mark it as a victory of reason over passion. This positive reinforcement strengthens your resolve, much like a warrior who hones their skill by acknowledging each battle won. Remember, this process is not about perfection, but progress. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, himself acknowledged the difficulty of living consistently by reason. Yet he persisted, reminding himself daily. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Every resisted impulse is a step forward on the path to wisdom and self-mastery. Importantly, this training reorients your identity. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of consumer culture and start seeing yourself as a rational agent. One who acts deliberately, according to values, not whims. Your mind becomes a citadel, fortified against the assault of every flashing sale and viral trend. In summary, fortifying your citadel means embracing Enkrateia as the foundation of your freedom. It requires daily discipline, mindful awareness, and a commitment to letting reason govern desire. By doing so, you reclaim your willpower, protect your wallet, and build a resilient inner fortress capable of weathering any temptation. Mastery of self-control is the bedrock of true freedom. It shields you not only from impulsive spending, but also from countless distractions and fleeting cravings that erode your peace. With Enkrateia, you gain the power to live intentionally, aligned with your deepest values, and resilient to the endless noise of consumerism. Number 2, the Stoic litmus test. Distinguish true needs from fleeting wants. At the heart of Stoic wisdom lies a profound understanding of the nature of desire. The Stoics teach us to distinguish sharply between what is truly necessary for a flourishing life and what is merely a transient want that arises from external influences or internal restlessness. This distinction is not trivial. It is fundamental to mastering impulse spending. In our modern world, where every moment we are bombarded by advertisements, influencer promotions, and limited time offers, it becomes all the more urgent to develop this discerning eye. Stoic philosophers such as Epictetus and Seneca made it clear that external things, wealth, possessions, status, are indifferents. They are neither inherently good nor bad. What matters is how we relate to them, and whether our pursuit of these things supports or undermines our inner virtue. Epictetus famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When applied to spending, this means it is not the item itself that defines its value, but the role it plays in your life and character. Before giving in to an impulse purchase, the Stoic litmus test invites you to interrogate your desire deeply. Ask yourself, do I genuinely need this, or is this just a fleeting want? Why do I want it? What will this add to my life? These questions are not meant to induce guilt or self-denial, but to reveal the true nature of your motivation. Is the desire rooted in authentic need or driven by external pressures, like social trends, advertising tactics, or emotional triggers such as boredom or stress? Seneca reminds us that many of our desires are in fact distractions from what truly matters. He writes, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." The impulse to buy something new often promises happiness, but more often than not, that promise is illusory. The hedonic treadmill phenomenon explains how the satisfaction gained from new purchases quickly fades, pushing us to seek the next thrill. This endless cycle leaves us poorer, not only financially but emotionally, as we lose sight of deeper contentment. The Stoic litmus test also asks us to consider alignment with our core values. Each purchase is a choice that either supports or detracts from the life we aspire to lead. For example, if your values include freedom and simplicity, a costly impulse buy may bind you to financial stress, limiting your options. If personal growth is central, consider whether this purchase contributes to learning or meaningful experiences, or if it merely feeds a superficial craving. Practically, applying this test means cultivating a habitual pause and reflection before each spending decision. Instead of reacting immediately to the siren call of buy now, you pause and ask, does this acquisition align with my values? Will it enhance my life in a meaningful and lasting way? Or is it just a fleeting desire, sparked by an external influence? This conscious filtering acts as a safeguard against impulsive choices. By adopting this Stoic approach, you transform your relationship with consumption. Spending becomes a deliberate, values-driven act, rather than a mindless surrender to advertising or social pressure. Over time, this habit strengthens your financial health and nurtures a deeper sense of contentment and purpose. The clutter of unnecessary possessions diminishes, replaced by clarity and intentionality. In essence, the Stoic litmus test empowers you to reclaim your agency. It equips you with a clear, rational framework to see through the noise of consumer culture and focus on what genuinely contributes to your well-being. This clarity is not only liberating, but transformative, helping you cultivate a life where material goods serve your deeper goals rather than distract from them. Number 3. Implement the pause and ponder, the power of delayed gratification. Stoicism teaches us that the foundation of wise action lies in the ability to pause, to interrupt the immediate impulse and introduce reason before we act. Marcus Aurelius, one of the great Stoic emperors, frequently reflected on the importance of this mental space, advising himself to say to yourself in the early morning, "Today I shall be meeting with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness. All these things have befallen those who were wise before me." His point was that challenges are inevitable, but how we respond to them, whether with impulsive anger, desire, or frustration, or with deliberate reason, is within our control. When it comes to impulse spending, this teaching is profoundly applicable. Impulse buying often occurs in moments of emotional vulnerability, boredom, or simply from the overwhelming flood of external stimuli. An ad here, a limited time deal there. The immediate desire to purchase can feel like an uncontrollable urge. Yet Stoicism invites us to remember that our desires and impulses are not commands. They are merely impressions that arise in the mind. Epictetus taught that we have the power to choose whether or not to assent to these impressions. By consciously creating a pause, a deliberate gap between the desire and the action, we open the door to thoughtful judgment. This gap can be cultivated through practical methods such as the widely recommended 24-hour rule. Before making any non-essential purchase, give yourself at least 24 hours to reflect. For larger expenses, extending this delay to a week or more can be even more effective. This waiting period is not meant to be a form of punishment, but a tool for clarity. During this time, the intensity of the desire often diminishes, revealing whether the impulse was a passing whim or a well-considered need. More often than not, the initial urgency will fade, and with it, the temptation to spend. Another practical Stoic strategy is to adhere strictly to a shopping list-only policy, particularly for routine errands like grocery shopping. The Stoics valued discipline highly. Seneca wrote extensively about the freedom that comes from living according to reason rather than passion. By committing only to what you have consciously planned, you reduce exposure to unplanned temptations and reinforce the habit of intentional spending. This discipline aligns perfectly with the Stoic ideal of living in accordance with nature and reason. Equally important is managing your environment to minimize exposure to triggers that spark impulsive buying. Today's consumer culture is designed to exploit our psychological vulnerabilities. Ubiquitous advertisements, influencer endorsements, and social media feeds, curated to ignite envy and desire. The Stoics emphasize controlling what lies within our power, including our perceptions and habits. Unsubscribing from marketing emails, unfollowing accounts that incite unnecessary wants, and avoiding aimless browsing are powerful ways to regain control over your mental landscape. This practice of pause and ponder does more than prevent rash purchases. It gradually strengthens your inner citadel of reason. Each moment of restraint builds the muscle of self-control, making it easier to withstand future temptations. Over time, you develop a deeper sense of autonomy, no longer, enslaved by the fleeting cravings manufactured by consumerism. In the grander Stoic view, this approach also cultivates virtue. Temperance or self-restraint is one of the cardinal virtues. It is the power to govern yourself rather than be governed by external circumstances or internal urges. By mastering delayed gratification, you not only protect your financial well-being, but also nurture the core of Stoic wisdom, living a life guided by reason, purpose, and inner freedom. Ultimately, pause and ponder transforms your relationship with money and desire. It shifts you from reactive consumption to mindful stewardship. The ability to delay gratification is not a mere financial tactic. It is a profound practice of self-mastery, a declaration that you are the ruler of your impulses, not their servant. This is the Stoic shield that guards your wallet and your will, enabling you to spend with intention, integrity, and freedom. Number 4. Practice negative visualization for possessions. One of the most profound and counterintuitive Stoic exercises is the practice of premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of adversity. Stoics like Seneca and Epictetus would regularly imagine losing the things they valued, not to cultivate fear or anxiety, but to foster gratitude, resilience, and a proper perspective on what truly matters. This mindset extends powerfully to how we relate to our possessions and desires, especially when it comes to impulse spending. In a world driven by constant acquisition and novelty, we often confuse possession with happiness. We feel that owning the latest gadget, fashion, or luxury will somehow elevate our status, fill an emotional void, or grant lasting satisfaction. Yet the Stoics remind us that external things are indifferent in themselves. They are neither good nor bad. What matters is our attitude toward them. By mentally rehearsing loss, we reduce our attachment to these externals and strengthen our inner contentment. Before you give in to an impulse buy, try this Stoic exercise. Imagine vividly that you do not buy the item. Picture your life without. Ask yourself, will this absence truly diminish my peace, my well-being, or my sense of self? More often than not, the answer reveals that your happiness is far less dependent on acquiring new things than your desires insist. By imagining life without the item, you weaken the emotional grip it has on you. Take this further by imagining that you already owned the item but then lost it, whether through damage, theft, or accident. Would your life be ruined? Or would you adapt, move on, and find contentment regardless? This voluntary discomfort is a form of mental training that prepares you to face loss with equanimity. It also reveals the fleeting nature of material pleasures and the strength that comes from detachment. Epictetus taught that we should desire things only in accordance with nature, meaning we should want what is within our control and accept what is not. We cannot fully control our possessions, nor the external world that shapes our desires, but we can control our responses. Negative visualization teaches us that clinging tightly to possessions is a source of unnecessary suffering and distraction from virtue. Applying this practice to impulse spending disrupts the illusion that immediate gratification is essential to well-being. It curbs the compulsive need to acquire by fostering a mindset where the absence of an item is not feared, but accepted. It also cultivates gratitude for what you already have, reducing the incessant craving for more. In doing so, you reinforce the Stoic ideal that true wealth lies in virtue and wisdom, not in material accumulation. Ultimately, practicing negative visualization builds resilience against marketing manipulation and social pressures designed to provoke envy and desire. It allows you to see through the veneer of consumerism, understanding that possessions are tools, not masters. This clarity frees your wallet and your mind, enabling you to make choices that serve your long-term flourishing rather than momentary pleasure. By embracing voluntary discomfort through negative visualization, you transform your relationship with impulse buying. Instead of chasing ephemeral satisfaction, you cultivate a durable contentment rooted in internal virtue. This Stoic discipline strengthens your ability to resist temptation, live intentionally, and reclaim your financial freedom with calm and reasoned confidence. Number 5. Embrace voluntary simplicity. Redefine your enough. The Stoics, particularly Seneca and Epictetus, often emphasize that true wealth does not lie in external possessions, but in living a life of virtue and freedom from unnecessary desires. Seneca famously said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." This profound insight calls us to examine the nature of our desires and challenges the modern consumerist idea that happiness depends on owning more and more. Instead, it points to the power of voluntary simplicity, a deliberate choice to live with what is sufficient, not in deprivation, but in freedom. Voluntary simplicity is the practice of reducing the complexity and excess in our lives to focus on what truly matters. It is a conscious rejection of the endless cycle of craving and consumption that characterizes modern consumer culture. This choice aligns with the Stoic goal of living in accordance with nature, which means recognizing what is necessary for a good life and what is superfluous. The Stoics taught that many things we think we need are merely preferred indifference, things that can be enjoyed but are not essential to happiness or virtue. When we embrace simplicity, we reclaim control over our desires. Instead of being led by impulses and external pressures, we set our own standards for what constitutes enough. This helps us resist the seductive pull of advertising, social media trends, and peer influences that constantly push us to buy things we do not truly need. We cultivate contentment with less, which paradoxically increases our sense of freedom. The fewer possessions and wants we have, the fewer worries and distractions weigh us down. Practically speaking, this means shifting your spending priorities from accumulating things to investing in experiences. Experiences, such as meaningful conversations, learning new skills, travel, or time with loved ones, offer deeper and longer-lasting fulfillment than material goods. Unlike possessions, which can quickly lose their novelty, experiences contribute to your growth and well-being. This shift in focus reflects the Stoic understanding that happiness arises from internal virtues and meaningful engagement with life, rather than external acquisitions. Another powerful practice tied to voluntary simplicity is regular decluttering. Removing items that no longer serve you forces a confrontation with past impulses and the realization of how often we have been swayed by momentary desires. This not only frees physical space, but also helps you recognize the emotional and psychological clutter that unnecessary possessions can create. Seneca himself lived modestly and advised that possessions should not enslave the owner, but serve the owner's rational life. The concept of redefining rich is central to this discipline. Instead of equating wealth with a large bank balance or a house full of possessions, consider richness as having time, freedom, strong relationships, and peace of mind. These are the true goods that the Stoics valued, and they are far less vulnerable to external circumstances. By redefining your values, you create a personal benchmark that resists the consumerist treadmill, the endless cycle of buying more to feel more. This redefinition helps diminish the power of impulse buying because it weakens the perceived necessity of accumulating things. When your sense of self-worth and contentment is rooted in virtue and internal stability, the emotional triggers that often lead to impulsive purchases lose their potency. You no longer need to chase after fleeting pleasures because your happiness is not contingent on external goods. Embracing voluntary simplicity also means accepting discomfort as part of growth. It may feel unfamiliar or even challenging at first to resist cultural norms that equate success with material abundance. However, the Stoics remind us that true freedom comes from mastering desires, not indulging them. By choosing simplicity, you build resilience against social pressure and marketing manipulations designed to exploit your impulses. Ultimately, this step is not just about curbing impulse spending. It is a transformative way of life. It invites you to live deliberately, to focus on what truly enriches your character and well-being. By making a conscious decision about what is enough, you protect your finances and your inner peace. You build a shield against the endless cravings promoted by consumer culture, strengthening your will and aligning your life with Stoic wisdom. Voluntary simplicity is the foundation for lasting financial freedom and emotional stability. It enables you to resist the siren call of impulse buying with clarity and confidence. In doing so, you cultivate a richer life, one measured not by possessions, but by meaning, purpose, and virtue. Number 6. The evening review for spending. Reflect and refine your discipline. One of the most profound and transformative habits in Stoic practice is the evening review, or prosouche, a deliberate and thoughtful reflection on the day's actions and choices. Marcus Aurelius, one of Stoicism's greatest practitioners, would spend quiet moments each evening reviewing his conduct, thoughts, and decisions to understand where he lived up to his principles and where he fell short. This practice was not about self-criticism or punishment, but about cultivating wisdom, self-awareness, and growth. When applied to your spending habits, the evening review becomes an indispensable tool for mastering impulse control and refining your financial discipline. At the close of each day, dedicate time to honestly and calmly examine your spending behavior. Ask yourself, when did I feel the urge to make an impulsive purchase? What were the emotions or situations that triggered this desire? Perhaps it was stress from work, boredom, a moment of loneliness, or an alluring advertisement that caught your eye. Identifying these triggers is crucial because it uncovers the root causes of your impulses, rather than merely addressing surface-level symptoms. The Stoics taught that understanding the origin of your impulses is the first step to mastering them, because reason must govern desire, not the other way around. Next, reflect on how you responded to those impulses. Did you manage to resist the temptation, or did you give in? If you resisted, honor that moment as a victory of reason over passion. Each act of self-control is a building block of your inner fortress, strengthening your Enkrateia. The Stoic virtue of self-mastery. Celebrate these moments of triumph, no matter how small they may seem, because they gradually rewire your habits and align your actions with your highest values. The Stoics believed that virtue is cultivated through consistent practice, not sudden perfection. If you gave in to impulse buying, approach this with gentle curiosity rather than harsh judgment. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that human beings are fallible, and that every failure is an opportunity to learn. Analyze the circumstances. Were you particularly tired or emotionally vulnerable? Did certain environments or people influence your decision? By understanding the conditions that led to your setback, you can develop strategies to better navigate or avoid similar situations in the future. The evening review, therefore, becomes a tool for continuous improvement rather than self-condemnation. Furthermore, this daily reflection reinforces your evolving sense of values and priorities. Over time, as you scrutinize your spending, you'll find it easier to distinguish between what is truly necessary and what is fleeting desire. The Stoics teach us that external goods, money, possessions, status, are indifferent in themselves. What matters is how we use them, and whether they serve virtue and a life well lived. The evening review reminds you to realign your actions with this truth, deepening your commitment to intentional, mindful spending. The benefits of the evening review extend beyond financial control. It strengthens your emotional resilience and sharpens your reason, helping you face all of life's challenges with equanimity. The Stoics saw reason as the faculty that sets humans apart and the source of true freedom. By regularly reflecting on your behavior, you reinforce the habit of letting reason govern your impulses, making you less susceptible to fleeting temptations and more grounded in your long-term goals. In this way, the evening review acts as both a mirror and a compass. It shows you where you stand today and points toward the path you want to follow tomorrow. The consistent practice of reviewing and refining your choices cultivates self-discipline and a peaceful mind, free from the chaos of impulsive reactions. It helps you build a personal narrative of growth and virtue, empowering you to reclaim not only your wallet, but your will. In conclusion, the evening review is not merely an exercise in financial management. It is a core Stoic practice that nurtures wisdom, temperance, and self-mastery. It invites you to approach your spending with the same philosophical rigor and compassion, that the Stoics brought to every aspect of their lives. By making this practice a daily habit, you embed a powerful mechanism of accountability and learning into your routine. This process ensures that your journey toward conquering impulse buys is sustainable, thoughtful, and deeply transformative. With the evening review, you close each day with clarity, humility, and renewed resolve, knowing that every step, forward or backward, is part of a lifelong path to freedom and virtue. Mastering impulse spending isn't about deprivation, it's about freedom. Freedom to control your desires, align your actions with your values, and live with purpose. These 6 Stoic steps are lifelong tools to help you resist fleeting temptations and build true contentment. When you reclaim your spending habits, you reclaim your life. You free yourself from anxiety, clutter, and endless chasing. True happiness, Stoicism teaches, comes from virtue and wise choices, not possessions. Let these steps be your shield, protecting your wallet and strengthening your will. The path to intentional spending and financial freedom is within your reach. Start now and choose wisdom every time.